This morning's guest is not in the Navy, but he's an officer and a gentleman. Who is he? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Bell & Bell, Buick, Pontiac, GMC, here where Highway 9 and 31 meet, at the Big Red Bell. We're focused on the U.S. Marine Corps, and we're visiting with Lieutenant Colonel Joe Paschall of the 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force at Camp Lejeune. Good morning, Lieutenant Colonel Paschall. Wow, how about that? Joe, can I say Joe?
Yeah, I imagine
just while we're here on air this morning, Joe will work.
Yeah, well, since I've known you 30 years.
That's right, that's right. We got to let that out. We've got a connection from Durham, and of course you've got a Duke shirt on. My family will be thrilled to see that when they watch you on air. It's very exciting, Joe. You were in Myrtle Beach last week on vacation.
Oh yeah, it's a great place. Try to come back there as often as I can. Unfortunately, I just can't get back, that often, with the job and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, the kids love it down there.
Absolutely. A lot going on in Myrtle Beach, of course, in the summertime. And y'all were staying up in North Myrtle Beach. How'd y'all find that place?
Well, actually, a good friend of ours, Greg Everett, you might know him, forwarded us to, a couple of realtors, Elliott Realty.
Elliott Realty, that's right, very popular.
They hooked us up with a very nice resort up in the Windy Hills section. It's a great place, right on the beach.
On the beach. So y'all spent a lot of time out on the beach. How about some good restaurants in the area?
Oh, yeah. We always have to hit, matter of fact, Preston's is our favorite. I think every time I've ever been to Myrtle Beach, we've hit Preston's. The kids love it. And I think we went to the Ocean Garden the last night.
That Chinese restaurant, that's right.
Yeah, great place. Well, having 4 little kids, under the age of 11, you pretty much got to go to a buffet because, we try to go to something that the wife and I prefer, like Outback. If you got a 30-minute wait, you're not entertaining 4 little kids, for a 30-minute wait. So that's the kind of thing that we go to for just the wife and I. But when we got the 4 kids, it's pretty much a buffet because that way you can get small portions for each of the kids. They can see what they want right there, and otherwise, it's total pain in the butt, with the kids trying to order the menu.
Great thinking, Joe. I need to take him and Claire to buffets more often.
Yeah, you should.
That's a great idea. We don't go because I eat so much of those buffets,
and
it's good I can't look like you.
It's good for you.
The more buffets I go to.
That's good.
You grew up not in the Palmetto State, Joe. You grew up in the Tar Heel State. I hate to say Tar Heel when you're wearing a Duke shirt.
I know that does kind of irk me. People, especially people not from North Carolina, always say, "Oh, well, you're a Tar Heel," and of course I'm like, "No, actually a Blue Devil," which is, the diametrically opposed to being a Tar Heel. But people outside of North Carolina consider you being a Tar Heel if you're from the state. So,
did you grow up always thinking, "I want to attend Duke. I'm going to go to Duke. That's my place"?
Well, funny enough, I did, although, when I was younger, always wanted to go to Duke, and as I got closer to actually applying to colleges, and I realized how hard Duke was to get into, I scaled that back a little bit, and the funny thing was, I actually threw the application away.
No.
It was funny because Duke's a fairly expensive school, and, didn't really have that kind of money. And so, I had good SAT scores, decent grades, but I really didn't think I was, going to be able to get into Duke. And so when I got the application, just kind of tossed it because it was, at the time, it was $35 application fee. And I thought, Dad, am I wasting $35? How about UNC Chapel Hill? Things that I knew I could get into and places that I knew my friends were going. I didn't have really that many friends going to Duke.
Going to Duke, yeah.
And so, Dad dragged it out of the trash. He dragged many things out of the trash. Matter of fact, the other story is he dragged my Navy ROTC scholarship application out of the trash as well.
No way.
Because I was getting, when you get good SAT scores, you start getting, it's pretty much spam. You're just getting a lot of things mailed to you, and I was weeding through them every day. I'd have a stack of mail every day of stuff that I got. 90% of it is stuff you're not going to be interested in. So I was just, tossing it away, and I got the ROTC scholarship thing, and I'm like, I'm not joining the military. Are you crazy? I tossed that, and Dad pulls it out of the trash and says, "Hey." Says here, free college. All you got to do is go in the Navy for 4 years.
Right.
And, you would apply. I'm like, Navy? Why would I go in the Navy for 4 years? Like, because it's free college. And then, he put the 2 and 2 together. You go to the Navy for 4 years, free college, then you can apply to Duke. And so drag the 2 of them out of the trash, literally. And, so it was pretty funny. I ended up applying to both and getting both. So of course could afford to go to Duke all of a sudden by virtue of the Navy ROTC scholarship. And yeah, that's how I ended up there. But quite honestly, I did throw both of them in the trash.
That is a great story. I've never heard that before. Yeah. That's a tremendous story. So when you figured out it was the 2 and 2 together, or the 1 and 1 together, but that you would take advantage of the Navy ROTC piece, did that make you think, oh, I can even apply to Harvard or other schools, or was it still Duke was so tough to get into anyway? Yeah.
Actually, I had never really thought of Harvard. Of course, Harvard, not only is it hard to get into, but it's also way up north. So it was, unlike your brother Rob, of course, you had the family legacy in Harvard, so you kind of think about Harvard.
So, yeah.
But I never really thought any farther beyond Duke because in my family there's really not a college history on either side.
Is that right? So, either Ted or Sandra?
Yeah, actually, I had a cousin who graduated from NC State a year before me, and she was the first from either side to go to college.
Is
beat
that
me by
right?
a year. Yeah, she graduated from NC State. So there wasn't any legacy or history there that kind of pushed me in either direction. So Duke, of course, where we grew up was that was the big thing going. It's probably about the highest that a local guy would aspire to, unless you're given an out of town legacy or something.
Absolutely. For our viewers who don't know the Triangle well, and of course Dad was with us. Robinson Everest was with us last Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We were filming at East of Chicago Pizza, and it was real exciting to hear him talk about him growing up in Durham. He was born there in 1928. Were you actually born in Durham, or?
Well, funny enough, I was born in Washington D.C., but it's that's a little known fact because I was adopted at birth. So I was really only born in Washington, and my mom and dad were waiting there to pick me up.
No.
And so I think I was probably 4 days old when I came to Durham.
I did know that.
I was essentially, my entire life I grew up in Durham, including, 4 years of college. So it really, I was 21 when I left Durham for the first time, but yeah, technically born in D.C.
I did not know that. That's amazing. And, I don't have distinct memories of your father. I do, of course, of your mother. But did Ted and Sandra have deep roots in the Triangle or in the Durham area?
Well, my mom is from Georgia, so I think she was born in Georgia, and they all moved to North Carolina, I think, when she was, younger, like, 10, 11.
Sure.
My dad was born in Durham, and actually the Paschall side of the family has been in North Carolina since 1740.
Is that right?
But mostly in Granville County is where they all started out. So, the roots in Durham, I think my grandfather was the first of the Paschall generation to move into Durham, but my dad was born there, so I essentially claim Durham.
Yeah, absolutely, sure. And of course, right now, home is both Camp Lejeune as well as where you're heading back this weekend.
Well, we say in the Marine Corps home is where the Marine Corps sends you, so that's where my home has been for the last 2 decades. It's just, wherever I happen to be. It seems that I spent, most folks in the Marine Corps, you spend a good portion of your career at either Camp Lejeune, Camp Pendleton, or Okinawa. And you kind of make one or the other your home base and keep coming back again. And Camp Lejeune has been that for me because it's kind of close to home. And this is my 3rd tour at Camp Lejeune, and so that's the closest something I can call home right now.
You also spent a good bit of time, though, at Pendleton, Camp Pendleton. Is that right?
3 years. I did 3.5 years out there, younger, when I was a captain, just to see what see what the left coast was all about. But the weather was good, the food was good, but on the whole, I had to come back.
You had to get back east. How about Okinawa? Have you spent any time there at all?
Never set foot on Okinawa, which is kind of something I wear as a badge of honor because most Marines spend a lot of time on Okinawa, and Okinawa for us in the Marine Corps is where you do a lot of exercises. It's typically I don't want to say marginalized portion of the Marine Corps, but traditionally over the past 20 years at least, it's not been one of the more operationally involved assignments going to Okinawa, and I've tried to stay more mainstream, and the mainstream is Pendleton and Lejeune. And so I've managed to avoid an assignment to Okinawa by virtue of doing a lot of deployments from Pendleton and Lejeune. When in the Marine Corps, we have what's called an overseas control date, and whenever if you've done 2 deployments at your current duty station, be it Pendleton, Lejeune, or wherever, you get the ability to pick your next assignment, and they can't send you to Okinawa because you've already done your deployed time. And I've always done my deployed time and never had anybody in position to tap me on the shoulder and say you have to go to Okinawa. So, and of course I'm retiring from Lejeune, after I get back from Iraq here. So, yeah, I'll be able to avoid that.
You'll be retiring next summer, Joe. That's a big deal after
20 years.
20 years. That's amazing. That's amazing. Of course, I think you mentioned before we started filming earlier this morning that those 4 years of ROTC at Duke do not count towards that 20.
No, and they probably shouldn't, because I was probably doing a lot more drinking and partying than actually work. So they probably shouldn't count. But we did, technically wear a uniform occasionally. You did do training in the summer, that type of thing. It was very much like being a reservist, which is what it was, Reserve Officer Training Corps.
Okay.
But it doesn't count as active duty time.
And of course, in that, did you have an opportunity? You could pick either the Navy or the Marines then at the end of the 4 years at Duke there. What was it about the Marines? Is that it's a special breed maybe, or what was it about the Marines that made you know, I don't think I'll be in the Navy?
Well, it's...
Or you are really in the Navy, that's right.
No.
Or you don't want to answer this on camera, yeah.
No, I was about to kick you under the table. But, as I said, I don't really have a military history in the family either, so there wasn't anything pulling me to, one service or another. I remember at the time, your mom and dad, of course, were pushing me towards the Air Force.
Right,
with your dad, having been in the Air Force.
Absolutely, long tenure there.
I mean, my mom was pushing me towards the Air Force as well, because she talked to your mom, and they had decided, well, that's so much easier. Well, just go in the Air Force. It will be so much easier for you,
Right.
But I got the Navy scholarship, and so I had thought I would stay in the Navy because I was sure that the Navy was a lot easier than the Marine Corps. And at the time, when you get the scholarship, you get a piece of paper with 2 boxes. Do you want to be in the Navy or the Marine Corps? And you just check one. It's that simple. Check Navy or Marine Corps. And I can still picture that piece of paper in front of my face, and I'm thinking, Marine Corps? I'm not checking that box. You crazy? Check the Navy, because it's easier. Well, I didn't know anything about either one.
Right.
And after, I hope I don't don't offend any of our fine Navy veterans here in the Grand Strand area.
Right.
But, after my first cruise at sea with the Navy, when you kind of see what the Navy is about, I realized there's just no way that I could be part of that. And not that it was a hard or a rough life, but the Navy and the Marine Corps are very similar in some aspects, but drastically different in the officer and enlisted relations. Because in the Navy, now I'm probably going to offend someone here, but in the Navy Officer Corps has always had a bit of an elitist aspect to it, and there's a great separation between officer and enlisted. The officers and the Navy chiefs have a lot of privileges, and they're very much into the rank has its privileges. The Marine Corps is a lot different. It's more like rank has the responsibility to serve and take care of the troops. It's a different focus. And it sounds like something small, but it's something huge when you come to look at the culture. And, as I said, I don't come from a college background, so any of my relatives that had been in the military had been enlisted, were staff non-commissioned officers. So when I saw what I consider dysfunctional relations between officer and enlisted personnel in the Navy, that's what really turned me off. And it wasn't that the organization wasn't running fine, and of course my perspective was just the one ship that I was on at the time,
sure.
And maybe that was just, maybe things were exacerbated on that ship a little bit. But the officer enlisted relationships were horrible. There was a lot of, it seemed to me that the officers looked at the enlisted personnel with derision, and the enlisted personnel looked at the officers with disrespect. And I thought, that's not for me. And meanwhile, all the guys I'd met to that point in time, keep in mind, at this point I'm only 18 years old, my perspective is limited, but the Marines, it seemed to me that the officer and enlisted relations were a lot tighter. And with my blue collar background, I thought, that's kind of the route that I need to go. So when I came back from that was my freshman cruise after my freshman year of college.
Right.
I went in to see the Marine captain and said, sir, I'd like to be a Marine. I can't be in the Navy was what I was saying. Not that I really want to be a Marine that bad, but I just can't be in the Navy. And so he said, okay, take you aboard. And the great irony is it took me a couple of years to make the transition from Navy to Marine Corps, whereas I could have checked that box simply in 1 second, and I would have been a Marine to start with. But when you're in ROTC, whether you're Navy or Marine, you get channeled into different courses. If you're Navy ROTC, you have to take kind of an engineering, math and sciences heavy course load. You're required to take 2 semesters of calculus, 2 semesters of physics, and concurrently you're taking naval engineering, naval weapon systems, things that are not that easy. And if you're in the Marine ROTC, you're taking land navigation, leadership, things that are qualitative, not quantitative. That, as it turned out, those things were much more of my forte.
Right,
So
sure.
here I am. Technically, I was Navy ROTC, so I had to take calculus and physics. Calculus didn't do much for my GPA, nor did physics.
Right.
I had, at the end of my first semester, I had a 1.75. Second
No
semester.
way.
Yeah, well, I was drinking a little bit too. But at the end of my first year, I had a 2.0. And I was trying to apply to transfer from Navy to Marine Corps with this lowly 2.0 GPA.
Yeah,
the
sure.
GPA being exacerbated by the calculus and physics that I wouldn't have had to take had I not been a
had
Navy.
you checked that box.
Yeah, so it's almost like I was in this catch-22. But at the time, when you're applying to become in the Marine Corps, it's very selective. And they look at this guy, with average physical fitness and everything else, and they say, but his grades are too low.
Right.
Well, we don't need to take someone because we got other guys with higher grades from other schools that can, looking to transfer from Navy to Marine Corps.
Wow.
So I was turned down actually twice.
No way.
Which
Until
made it
you could get your GPA up.
Yeah, which made it even worse because here you are, the word gets around when you're in Navy ROTC, of who wants to transfer to be a Marine.
Oh, wow.
So here's this guy that, not only is it bad enough that you don't like the Navy that you're in, but they know you want to be a Marine and you're too dumb to be a Marine.
Oh my God.
And that's because, that's the good-natured ribbing between the Navy and the Marine Corps is those that aren't smart enough to be in the Navy become Marines. It's not true at all, but it's just part of, the good-natured sister service rivalry that we have.
Right.
And at the time, being in college, especially being in Duke, a college where, things is full of, smart guys, or so I think. I took a lot of good-natured and not so good-natured ribbing from
those guys tore you up. Yeah.
As much as they could, yeah. They too dumb to be a Marine, and I thought,
my God.
very funny. So I did what anyone would do, and took an underload and padded my underload with really easy electives to bump the GPA up for one semester, one critical semester, and at the same time hit the gym a lot more so that my physical fitness test scores jumped.
Yeah.
And so my GPA for this one semester was a 3.6, and my physical fitness jumped from like a 250 to 280 points out of 300, which showed enough of an upward trend that I was taken, by the Marine Corps.
Right.
At literally the last moment, because I was accepted from the Marine Corps only a couple of months before I had to go to officer candidate school.
Oh yeah, up there in Quantico.
Oh yeah, right down to the wire.
That's amazing, Joe. I did not know that story either. And you think about those critical days again. Had you just checked that box, but
I'm probably not telling my best stories here on air. I should think.
No. That's great. I know. Hopefully, Sue and your 4 will be able to take the chance. I know they're obviously back up in North Carolina now. Hopefully, they'll go online next week. And I know you're heading back to Iraq this weekend, and so you'll be able to watch this online next week. It's amazing to think about. So much has to happen in the services, and I think a lot of people don't understand all of what happens there. But after ROTC, there is that experience. We got about 5 minutes, Joe, and I hope you'll have the chance to maybe come back with us tomorrow here at Bell and Bell,
so.
if you'd be up for that. That experience of after ROTC, there's an officer candidate school prior to actually getting active.
Oh, yes.
What was that like for you after you left Duke and you wrapped up 4 years there and were leaving Durham really for the first time?
Yeah, well, I've had a lot of opportunity over the years to give advice to young guys. They're looking to go to officer candidate school, and the first thing that I tell them is don't lift a lot before you go, run a lot, and get as lean as you can, because I had the opposite approach. At the time, I was thinking all Marines are big and huge, because that's, the post Marine, big, huge guys. So I'm hitting the weights heavy. And I was up to about 214, which is right about exactly what I'm weighing now. And I lost 36 pounds at officer candidate school in those 6 weeks.
In 6 weeks?
Yeah, because
Seems
it's
like
all
the place
about
I
running.
need to go.
No, it's all about running all the time. And I was one of the bigger guys, consequently want to be slower guys. And I wasn't, even by Marine Corps standards, I was never really slow.
Right.
But when you're put in line with a bunch of other guys that are running like 290 out of a 300 PFT, physical fitness test,
right.
Yeah, you could be running at 285 and be one of the slower guys, which is where I was.
Right.
And that made it kind of rough at officer candidate school. And the other thing that made it particularly rough was the notoriety that I gained by association with your father.
Oh, no.
And yeah, at the time, about the second day of officer candidate school, they have you fill out a number of forms. And one of the forms you have to fill out is who has a VIP, a very important person, honored guest, coming to officer candidate school graduation 6 weeks later.
Right.
They tell you that because they have to prepare. It takes preparation time for these VIPs. I don't think that's true in retrospect. What they really want to do is find out who is the son of a general, a congressman, or someone.
Sure.
Because they look at those people a little bit different. They screen them a little bit more. They just, watch what they're doing a little bit more around them, and they harass them a lot more as well.
They harass them more?
Oh, yeah. It's in retrospect, it's good-natured, and I'm sure they had a blast doing it, but I had no idea, which way was up going through officer candidate school because,
right.
I'm from a solid blue-collar background. There's no generals in my history. No one had even been going to college.
Right.
And so, the second day I filled this out. By the fourth day, I'm starting to get people coming yelling me at random, where's the general's son? Where's the general's son?
Oh, you're kidding.
I'm looking around like, I don't know where the general's son is. And they're like, where is candidate Paschall, the general's son? I'm like, it's candidate Paschall. I don't even know a general. Like, oh yeah, so you're the one whose daddy's a general and is going to come pull you out of all this. Well, of course, your dad wasn't a general, but he was
right.
he was a four-star general equivalent,
right?
Because he was the Chief Justice on the Court of Military Appeals,
right.
And so, but you know how the rumors spread. So apparently, this piece of paper went up to the colonel or someone else,
sure,
and they changed it from he's a Chief Justice to he's a four-star equivalent. Because someone coming back down with the rumors was, he's a four-star general, and then instead of a friend of the family, it's his father.
It's his kid.
So it started out a friend of the family as Chief Justice, Military Court of Appeals, and it came back down as his son's a his son of a four-star general. Yeah, so that didn't do me any favors at all.
So that's
it made it pretty rough 6 weeks for
the 6 weeks. So
because every time you get in trouble, someone's saying, I guess you want your daddy, the four-star general, to come pull you out of this. I'm thinking, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only did you lose 36 pounds, but you got a hell of a lot of ribbing because of my poor dad who knew nothing. And Dad ended up coming to the graduation, right?
No, actually, Dad, you and Rob came.
I remember Rob and I ended up. That's right, but Dad couldn't get out.
Sit in the VIP box.
We did.
My parents got a great kick out of that, sitting in the VIP box, because of course we were associated with a four-star general.
Oh, that's right. So Sandra got to do the same thing. Yeah.
So we got the VIP treatment. And of course, I had been getting the VIP treatment for the whole 6 weeks because of it.
Yeah, getting beaten up. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it was a good 6 weeks. Good weight loss program.
That is amazing, Joe. Of course, the excitement of being down here, being in Myrtle Beach last week with your wife and 4 children. You mentioned your mother was also down with you.
Oh, yes.
She's been very proud of her son in his 20 years in the Marine, her son, the Duke graduate, her son that's going on to do amazing things. A lot's going to be happening over the next year as you plan for post 20 years of service in the Marines, post-service. You'll be getting out next June.
Yep.
That's a big deal. You're heading back to Iraq this weekend.
I am.
How long is that trip back, Joe? What is that experience like traveling over there? And, of course, coming back, you were back for a couple of weeks. I know you're heading back this weekend.
It's about eight time zones different. So coming back, it's like you gain 8 hours. Going forward, you lose 8 hours. But it really, the trip takes anywhere from 3 to 4 days.
3 to 4 days?
But that's
so you'll be heading back all weekend. Yeah.
It's a process of moving, military folks, because the well-oiled machine we have at this point, they're moving military folks backwards and forwards from Iraq, they're coming home on their R&R and coming home at the end of their deployments. What you end up doing is, you're ferried through about 4 or 5 different legs of the journey, and from the small base that I'm in Iraq, it means a helicopter ride, and likely during the nighttime hours to a larger base, where you probably wait a full day to get manifested for your next flight, and then you might take a fixed-wing aircraft flight from that base into Kuwait, and in Kuwait you'll wait another day or so until you'll get what amounts to like a commercial flight back to the States, and then you go on your regular hubs to wherever you're going to go. But because of waiting for about a day in each location and 3 or 4 locations, it makes for a bit of a journey. Almost makes you glad to get back home to Iraq, although doesn't really feel that way. But when you're on a journey for 3 or 4 days, you really just want to get wherever you're going. So it will make me look forward to getting back to my little bed in Iraq. By the time the journey's over.
By the time you get back late this weekend or early part of next week, it sounds. Joe, you said you'd be willing to come back with us tomorrow. I hope you're still up for it.
Sure.
Great. Okay. Thanks so much for being with us. This is exciting. Lieutenant Colonel Joe Paschall, U.S. Marine Corps. You'll hear a little more, part 2 tomorrow. Come on back. Stay with us. He's coming up next. We wrapped up yesterday talking about the 36 pounds he lost over the 6 weeks at Officer Candidate School 19 years ago. We started to get into what he's doing today, heading out this weekend back to Iraq. There's a lot that happened in that 19-year period in the interim. We want to get into that a little bit tomorrow. Come back, be with us for part 2 of Lieutenant Colonel Joe Paschall. You heard him talk about the officer and enlisted in the Marine Corps, that service aspect of the officers serving the enlisted. There's a real effort there. It's made every day. You'll hear Joe talk a little bit more about it tomorrow. Come back, be with us. Part 2, Lieutenant Colonel Joe Paschall.